Every insight you gain, every healing you experience, every creative solution you access becomes part of the morphic field that other consciousness streams can connect to. You become a node in the network of awakening consciousness. This is why the forbidden knowledge was suppressed. This is why dream work was marginalized. Because when enough humans understand how to consciously navigate the morphic field during sleep, the entire frequency of human consciousness begins to shift. We're not just individuals having personal dreams. We're cells in the awakening mind of humanity itself. We're active participants in the transformation of consciousness on Earth. And the key to this participation lies in understanding where your consciousness goes when you sleep. But there's another dimension to this transformation that most people never consider: the role of collective dreaming and shared consciousness experiences during sleep. The morphic field isn't just accessible to individual consciousness streams. It's also the medium through which multiple consciousness streams can connect and share experiences simultaneously. This is what consciousness researchers call mutual dreaming, or shared dream space navigation. Throughout history, there have been documented cases of people sharing identical dream experiences, receiving the same information or guidance, or meeting in dream states to work together on collective challenges. These aren't coincidences or psychological projections. They're evidence of consciousness streams consciously connecting through the morphic field during sleep. When you understand the mechanics of shared dreaming, you realize that conscious dream work can become a form of collective problem-solving, group healing, and community building that operates beyond the limitations of physical space and linear time. Imagine being able to connect with others during sleep, to work together on creative projects, share healing energy across vast distances, or collectively receive guidance for community challenges. This isn't science fiction. This is advanced consciousness technology that becomes available when you understand the true nature of the morphic field. The suppressed texts contain specific techniques for initiating shared dream experiences, maintaining conscious awareness during collective navigation, and contributing to group intentions through dream consciousness. These techniques require not just individual skill, but also collective agreement and synchronized intention among all participants. But when these shared dream experiences succeed, they demonstrate something profound about the nature of consciousness itself. Individual awareness is not separate from collective awareness, but is collective awareness expressing itself through individual forms. This realization transforms everything about how you understand your role in the evolution of human consciousness. You're not just an individual working on personal development. You're a conscious participant in the collective awakening of human awareness itself. And this collective awakening is accelerating. More humans than ever before are beginning to remember their multidimensional nature. More people are experiencing spontaneous lucid dreams, prophetic visions, and direct communications with non-physical intelligence. More consciousness explorers are developing abilities to navigate the morphic field during sleep. This isn't happening randomly. This is a coordinated awakening that's being facilitated through the morphic field itself. As more consciousness streams connect to higher frequencies during sleep, they're contributing to a collective elevation that makes these higher frequencies more accessible to all human consciousness. We're living through what consciousness researchers call a morphic cascade, a rapid transformation in the collective field of human awareness that's accelerating the awakening of individual consciousness streams throughout the planet. Your participation in conscious dream work isn't just personal development, it's active contribution to this collective awakening. Every night you consciously navigate the morphic field, you're helping to anchor higher frequencies of awareness in the collective field of human consciousness. This is why this knowledge is returning now. This is why the suppressed texts are becoming available. This is why you're being called to understand where your consciousness goes during sleep. The time has come for humanity to remember its multidimensional nature and begin consciously participating in the evolution of consciousness itself. Where your consciousness actually goes in dreams, forbidden book. You close your eyes tonight believing you're about to enter unconsciousness. You've been told that dreams are random neural firings, meaningless fragments of daily processing, electrical storms in a sleeping brain. But what if everything you've been taught about where your consciousness goes during sleep is not just wrong, but deliberately concealed? What if the 8 hours you spend dreaming each night aren't lost time, but the most profound journey your consciousness takes? What if while your physical body rests, your awareness travels to dimensions of reality that governments, institutions, and even science itself have reasons to keep hidden? Tonight, we're going to explore the forbidden territory of consciousness during sleep. We're going to examine what ancient wisdom keepers knew, what modern quantum physics is beginning to prove, and what happens when you understand that your dreams aren't happening to you. They're happening through you. You are about to discover where your consciousness actually goes when you sleep. And once you know this truth, you can never return to the illusion of unconscious dreaming. Let's begin with something that will shift everything you think you know about the nature of consciousness itself. Every night, approximately 7.8 billion human beings across this planet simultaneously enter an altered state of consciousness. We call this dreaming. But here's what no one tells you. This isn't a random biological process. This is a coordinated, quantum-entangled field experience that connects every sleeping mind on Earth. Think about this for a moment. Every single night, most of humanity enters a state where linear time dissolves, where physical laws become malleable, where you can fly, where you can communicate with beings who exist beyond the physical realm, where you can access information you've never consciously learned. This isn't malfunction. This is function. Your consciousness during sleep isn't shutting down. It's expanding. It's connecting. It's traveling to what quantum physicists are now calling the morphic field of collective human consciousness. But here's where it gets interesting. There are certain texts, certain books, certain knowledge systems that have been systematically removed from mainstream awareness because they contain the actual mechanics of consciousness travel during sleep. One such text recently emerged from decades of suppression, written by a fourth-generation intuitive who combines depth psychology with quantum consciousness research. The reason these teachings were kept hidden becomes obvious once you understand what's actually happening in your sleep state. Because when you know how to consciously navigate the realms your awareness visits during dreams, you gain access to information, healing, and creative solutions that bypass all conventional systems of control. Let me explain what's really happening when you sleep. Your physical brain doesn't create consciousness. Your brain receives consciousness. It's like a radio tuning into different frequencies. During waking hours, your brain is tuned to what we call consensus reality, the shared frequency of physical, linear experience. But when you sleep, your brain's reception changes. It begins picking up signals from what researchers call the quantum field of infinite possibility. This is why dreams feel so real, because at the level of consciousness, they are real. You're not imagining flying in a dream. Your consciousness is actually experiencing movement through dimensional space. You're not randomly dreaming about people you've never met. Your awareness is connecting with other consciousness streams in the morphic field. You're not coincidentally solving problems in dreams. You're accessing the universal intelligence that exists beyond individual minds. If this understanding is resonating with you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay connected to these consciousness-expanding explorations. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever experienced a dream that felt more real than waking life? Or received information in a dream that you couldn't have known consciously? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to validate their own consciousness journey. Ancient wisdom traditions understood this. They developed elaborate systems for consciousness travel during sleep. Tibetan dream yoga, Aboriginal dreamtime navigation, Egyptian consciousness projection techniques. These weren't mystical fantasies. These were practical technologies for accessing the multidimensional nature of awareness. But something happened. As human societies became more controlled, more structured, more focused on external authority, these consciousness technologies were gradually suppressed. Why? Because a human who knows how to consciously navigate the dream realm is a human who can access information, healing, and creative solutions independent of any external system. A person who understands where their consciousness goes during sleep cannot be controlled by anyone or anything that operates only in physical reality. This is why dream work was removed from educational systems. This is why sleep is presented as merely biological rest. This is why the most profound journey your consciousness takes every night is dismissed as meaningless neural activity. But consciousness cannot be controlled. It can only be temporarily obscured. And now, in this moment of planetary awakening, the suppressed knowledge is returning. Here's what actually happens when you sleep. Your consciousness, which exists as a quantum field of awareness, begins to decouple from the electromagnetic field of your physical brain. This creates what sleep researchers call REM sleep, but what consciousness explorers know as the liminal state, the threshold between individual awareness and collective consciousness. In this state, your personal awareness merges with the morphic field of human consciousness. This field contains every thought, every emotion, every experience, every possibility that has ever existed or could exist. It's like a cosmic internet of consciousness that every sleeping mind connects to. But here's the crucial part. Your level of conscious participation in this process determines what you experience and what you bring back to waking life. Most people connect to this field unconsciously, randomly, passively. They experience dreams as things that happen to them, rather than journeys they're actively taking. But when you understand the mechanics of consciousness travel during sleep, everything changes. You can consciously choose where your awareness goes. You can deliberately connect with specific information, healing energies, creative solutions, or even other consciousness streams. This is what the suppressed texts teach. This is what the forbidden knowledge reveals. This is what happens when you understand that your dreams aren't biological processes. They're consciousness technologies. And once you know how to use these technologies, you gain access to resources that exist beyond the limitations of physical reality. Let me share something that happened to me personally that illustrates this principle. Several years ago, I was working on a project that seemed impossible to solve. I had reached the limits of my conscious understanding. Traditional research, consulting experts, analytical thinking, nothing was providing the breakthrough I needed. That night, before sleep, I used a technique from one of these suppressed consciousness texts. I set a specific intention for my awareness to travel to the morphic field region that contained the solution I was seeking. I didn't just hope for a helpful dream. I consciously prepared my awareness to navigate the quantum field of infinite possibility. What happened next defied everything I thought I knew about problem solving. In the dream state, I found myself in a vast library that existed purely as crystallized consciousness. I could perceive information not as words or images, but as direct knowing. I accessed understanding that I had never consciously learned, solutions that combined elements I had never consciously connected. When I woke up, I had not just the solution to my project, but an entirely new framework for understanding the challenge itself. This wasn't random dream content. This was conscious navigation of the morphic field of human knowledge. This is what becomes possible when you understand where your consciousness actually goes during sleep. This is what the forbidden texts teach. This is what every human being can learn to do. But here's what makes this even more profound. You're not just accessing information during these consciousness journeys. You're actively participating in the evolution of human awareness itself. Every time you consciously connect with the morphic field during sleep, you're not just receiving from collective consciousness. You're contributing to it. Your insights, your healing, your creative solutions become part of the field that other consciousness streams can access. This means that learning to navigate consciousness during sleep isn't just personal development. It's planetary service. It's how awakened awareness spreads through the collective field of human consciousness. This is why these teachings were suppressed. This is why dream work was marginalized. This is why sleep is presented as merely biological rest. Because when enough humans understand how to consciously navigate the dream realm, the entire structure of reality begins to shift. We're not just individual consciousness streams randomly dreaming. We're nodes in a vast network of awareness that spans dimensions, timelines, and possibilities. We're active participants in the evolution of consciousness itself. And the key to accessing this network lies in understanding where your consciousness goes when you sleep. Now let's explore the specific mechanics of consciousness travel during dreams. The first thing you need to understand is that consciousness exists in layers. Just as you have a physical body, an emotional body, and a mental body, you also have multiple levels of consciousness that can operate independently. During waking hours, all these levels are synchronized around the frequency of physical reality. But when you sleep, different levels of consciousness begin to decouple and operate at different frequencies. Your surface consciousness, the part that thinks in words and processes daily experience, remains partially connected to your physical brain. This is why you can sometimes remember dreams, why dreams often contain fragments of daily experience, why you can sometimes influence your dreams through conscious intention. But your deeper consciousness, the part that exists beyond individual identity, begins to merge with the morphic field of collective awareness. This is where the real journey happens. This is where you gain access to information, healing, and possibilities that exist beyond individual experience. Most people experience this deeper level unconsciously. They wake up with vague memories of strange dreams, unexplained emotions, or sudden insights that seem to come from nowhere. But when you understand the mechanics of consciousness travel, you can learn to maintain awareness at this deeper level. This is what the suppressed texts call conscious dreaming, or lucid field navigation. It's not just becoming aware that you're dreaming. It's learning to consciously navigate the quantum field of infinite possibility that your awareness naturally connects to during sleep. Here's a simple technique that can begin to open this capacity. Tonight, before you sleep, set a clear intention for your consciousness to remain aware during the transition from waking to sleeping. Don't try to control the experience. Simply maintain gentle awareness as your physical body relaxes and your mind begins to drift. Notice the moment when your thoughts begin to become less linear, when images begin to flow without logical connection, when you start to experience the fluid, timeless quality of the dream state. This is the liminal threshold. This is where consciousness travel begins. Instead of falling unconscious at this point, practice maintaining a subtle awareness of yourself as the observer of the experience. You're not trying to control the dream content. You're simply staying awake to the fact that you're experiencing a journey of consciousness. With practice, you'll begin to notice that you're not just observing random images and scenarios. You're moving through different regions of the morphic field of consciousness. You're accessing different layers of information, different frequencies of awareness, different possibilities for understanding. This is where the real work begins. This is where you start to understand that your dreams aren't happening to you. They're happening through you as your consciousness navigates the quantum field of infinite possibility. But let me be clear about something crucial. This isn't about escaping physical reality or becoming lost in altered states. This is about understanding the multidimensional nature of consciousness so you can function more effectively in all dimensions. When you consciously navigate the morphic field during sleep, you return to waking life with expanded awareness, enhanced creativity, deeper intuition, and access to solutions that exist beyond the limitations of individual thinking. This is what the forbidden knowledge teaches. This is what every human being can learn to do. This is what happens when you understand where your consciousness actually goes during dreams. You become a bridge between dimensions of awareness. You become a translator of infinite possibility into practical reality. You become a conscious participant in the evolution of human consciousness itself. Take a moment right now and comment below with this phrase: I choose to awaken to the multidimensional nature of my consciousness. Don't just type these words casually. Feel them as a declaration to the quantum field of infinite possibility. Feel them as a signal that you're ready to understand where your consciousness actually goes during sleep. This phrase is more than a comment. It's an activation. It's a way of informing the morphic field that you're ready to receive the deeper teachings about consciousness travel during dreams. But before we dive deeper into conscious navigation, let me share something that will shatter your understanding of time itself and how it operates in the dream realm. Linear time, the progression from past to present to future that dominates waking consciousness, doesn't exist in the morphic field. When your consciousness travels during sleep, you're entering what quantum physicists call the eternal now, where all possibilities exist simultaneously. This is why you can dream about events that haven't happened yet and wake up to find them manifesting in physical reality. This is why you can connect with loved ones who have passed beyond physical form. This is why you can access wisdom from ancient teachers or future versions of yourself. In the morphic field, there is no past or future, only the eternal present moment containing infinite possibility. Most people dismiss prophetic dreams as coincidence or déjà vu as neurological glitches. But when you understand that consciousness operates outside linear time during sleep, these experiences become evidence of your natural ability to navigate the quantum field of infinite possibility. I remember a period in my life when I began having what I initially dismissed as strange, repetitive dreams. Night after night, I would find myself in the same location, a building I had never seen before, with specific architectural details that felt hauntingly familiar. In these dreams, I would always encounter the same person, someone I had never met in waking life, but who felt like an old friend. For months, I dismissed these dreams as products of an overactive imagination. Until one day, I walked into a building for a business meeting and experienced that profound shock of recognition. Every detail matched my dreams perfectly. The marble floors, the specific arrangement of windows, even the unusual spiral staircase. And there, waiting in the conference room, was the exact person I had been encountering in my dreams for months. We had never met before, yet our conversation flowed with the easy familiarity of old friends. Later, when I mentioned the dreams, they revealed they had been having similar experiences. Dreams of meeting someone who looked exactly like me in a building that matched the one where we had just met. This wasn't coincidence. This was consciousness recognizing a significant connection before it manifested in linear time. This was the morphic field orchestrating a meeting through the dream realm before it occurred in physical reality. When you understand that consciousness during sleep operates outside linear time, you begin to realize that your dreams aren't just processing past experiences. They're actively participating in the creation of future possibilities. This temporal fluidity in the dream realm reveals something profound about the nature of reality itself. What you experience as solid, fixed reality is actually just one frequency of infinite possibility. During sleep, your consciousness gains access to the quantum field, where all possibilities exist simultaneously. And through your awareness and intention, you can influence which possibilities manifest in physical reality. This is what the ancient mystery schools called dream incubation, the practice of using dream consciousness to influence future outcomes. But they understood this wasn't about controlling reality for personal gain. It was about aligning with the highest possibilities for the evolution of consciousness itself. Now let's explore something that will completely transform how you understand the relationship between individual consciousness and collective awareness. The morphic field of human consciousness isn't just a passive library of information. It's a living, evolving system that responds to the quality of consciousness that connects to it. When you approach the field with fear, confusion, or unconscious desire, you tend to access chaotic, fragmented, or disturbing content. But when you approach with clarity, love, and conscious intention, you access wisdom, healing, and creative solutions. This is why dream work is ultimately spiritual work. It's not about acquiring information or gaining personal power. It's about aligning your consciousness with the highest frequencies of awareness so you can serve the evolution of collective consciousness. The suppressed texts explain this principle through what they call frequency attunement. Before you can consciously navigate the morphic field, you must first attune your consciousness to frequencies that serve the highest good of all beings. This happens through what consciousness researchers call heart-centered awareness. Instead of approaching dream work from mental curiosity or personal desire, you approach it from a deep love for truth, healing, and service to the awakening of all consciousness. When your consciousness is attuned to these higher frequencies, your dream journeys become not just personal exploration, but direct service to the evolution of human awareness itself. But here's something that will shift your understanding even deeper. The morphic field doesn't just contain human consciousness. It contains the consciousness of all life forms, animals, plants, even what we call inanimate matter. During sleep, your consciousness can connect with the awareness streams of trees, mountains, rivers, stars, entire ecosystems, and cosmic phenomena. Indigenous wisdom keepers have always known this. They developed elaborate practices for connecting with the consciousness of natural elements during dream states. They understood that human consciousness is not separate from natural consciousness. but is part of an interconnected web of awareness that includes all of existence. Modern quantum physics is beginning to confirm what indigenous peoples have always known. Consciousness is not produced by brains, but is a fundamental property of the universe itself. Every atom, every molecule, every celestial body participates in the universal field of consciousness. When you learn to navigate the morphic field during sleep, you gain access to this cosmic network of awareness. You can connect with the ancient wisdom of trees, the navigational intelligence of birds, the healing frequencies of crystals, the transformational energy of stars. This isn't metaphorical or symbolic. This is direct, experiential connection with the consciousness that animates all of existence. And these connections provide access to types of wisdom, healing, and creative inspiration that exist far beyond the realm of human knowledge. I remember a period when I was struggling with a decision that felt impossible to resolve through conventional thinking. That night, I set an intention to connect with the consciousness of an ancient oak tree that grew near my home. In the dream state, I found myself merged with the awareness of this tree, experiencing the world through its consciousness. What I received wasn't information in any conventional sense. It was a direct transmission of the tree's understanding of time, growth, patience, and the deep rhythms of natural cycles. Through this connection, I gained a perspective on my decision that had nothing to do with human logic, but everything to do with natural wisdom. When I woke up, the decision that had seemed impossible was now obvious. Not because I had thought my way to a solution, but because I had accessed a type of intelligence that operates beyond the limitations of human thinking. This is what becomes possible when you understand that consciousness during sleep can connect with the awareness streams of all existence. You gain access to forms of intelligence that have been evolving for millions of years, wisdom that has been accumulating since the beginning of time, perspectives that exist far beyond the scope of human experience. And here's what makes this even more profound. These connections are mutual. Just as you receive wisdom from natural consciousness, your human awareness contributes unique perspectives to the cosmic network of consciousness. Human consciousness has developed capacities for abstract thinking, creative imagination, and intentional choice that are unique in the known universe. When you consciously connect with natural consciousness during sleep, you're not just receiving from the cosmic network, you're contributing your unique human awareness to the evolution of universal consciousness itself. This mutual exchange is how consciousness evolves throughout the universe. Different forms of awareness connect, share perspectives, and contribute to each other's evolution. Your dream consciousness becomes a bridge between human awareness and cosmic consciousness, facilitating the evolution of both. This is why conscious dream work is ultimately cosmic service. You're not just exploring consciousness for personal benefit. You're actively participating in the evolution of consciousness throughout the universe. Now let me share something about the role of symbols and archetypal energies in dream consciousness that most people completely misunderstand. Dreams are often filled with symbols, archetypal figures, and scenarios that seem bizarre or nonsensical from a linear thinking perspective. Most people dismiss these as random brain activity or attempt to interpret them through conventional psychological frameworks. But when you understand the language of the morphic field, you realize that dream symbols aren't random or personal. They're universal frequencies of consciousness expressing themselves through your individual awareness. Archetypal figures in dreams, the wise teacher, the shadow figure, the divine feminine, the sacred masculine, the inner child, the elder, aren't just psychological constructs. They're actual consciousness streams that exist in the morphic field and can be directly communicated with during dream states. When you encounter an archetypal figure in a dream, you're not just processing personal psychology. You're connecting with a fundamental pattern of consciousness that has existed throughout human history and contains accumulated wisdom from thousands of years of human experience. These archetypal consciousness streams can become teachers, guides, and sources of wisdom that far exceed any individual human knowledge. They represent the collective wisdom of humanity organized into specific frequencies that can be accessed during dream consciousness. Learning to consciously communicate with archetypal figures during dreams is like gaining access to a cosmic council of wisdom that can provide guidance, healing, and perspective on any aspect of human experience. But this communication requires understanding the symbolic language of the morphic field. Archetypal consciousness doesn't communicate through words or linear concepts. It communicates through symbols, feelings, direct transmissions of understanding, and experiential metaphors. This is why dream interpretation through conventional, psychological, or cultural symbol dictionaries often misses the point entirely. The same symbol can carry completely different meanings depending on the archetypal consciousness that's transmitting it and the specific question or situation you're bringing to the encounter. True dream communication with archetypal consciousness requires developing what the suppressed texts call symbolic fluency, the ability to understand and respond to the nonlinear, multidimensional language of consciousness itself. This symbolic fluency develops through practice and relationship. As you consciously engage with archetypal figures in dreams over time, you begin to understand their unique communication styles, their areas of wisdom, and the types of guidance they can provide. Some archetypal consciousness streams specialize in creative inspiration, others in emotional healing, others in spiritual wisdom, others in practical guidance for life decisions. Learning to consciously navigate to specific archetypal teachers based on what you're seeking becomes a precise technology for accessing exactly the type of wisdom or healing you need. And here's what makes this even more significant. As you develop conscious relationships with archetypal figures in dreams, these relationships begin to influence your waking life as well. The wisdom, healing, and guidance you receive during dream consciousness begins to integrate into your daily awareness, transforming how you think, feel, and respond to life challenges. This integration between dream consciousness and waking consciousness is what the ancient traditions called the unified life, a state where the boundaries between sleeping and waking awareness dissolve, and you begin to operate from the expanded consciousness that's available during dreams even while awake. This is the ultimate goal of conscious dream work, not just to access expanded consciousness during sleep, but to integrate that expanded consciousness into every moment of your existence. I'm curious, as you're listening to this, what's the most profound dream experience you've ever had? Was there a moment when you knew you were accessing something beyond ordinary consciousness? Comment below and let the community know what shifted for you in that experience. Now let me share something that most people never consider. The quality of your waking consciousness directly affects the dimensions of awareness you can access during sleep. If you spend your waking hours in reactive emotional states, unconscious mental patterns, or fear-based thinking, your consciousness will naturally attune to similar frequencies in the morphic field during sleep. You'll experience chaotic dreams, disturbing scenarios, or simply remain unconscious to the deeper possibilities of dream navigation. But if you cultivate conscious awareness, emotional stability, and heart-centered intention during waking hours, Your consciousness will naturally attune to higher frequencies in the morphic field during sleep. You'll access wisdom, healing, creative solutions, and direct communion with the intelligence that guides the evolution of consciousness itself. This is what the suppressed texts call integrated consciousness work. You don't just practice dream techniques at night. You transform your entire relationship with consciousness throughout the day. You begin to understand that every moment of awareness is an opportunity to attune to higher frequencies of consciousness. Every interaction becomes a chance to contribute to the collective field of awakening awareness. Every thought, every emotion, every choice becomes part of your preparation for conscious navigation of the morphic field during sleep. This is why consciousness work is ultimately about service. It's not about personal gain or individual enlightenment. It's about becoming a clear channel for the intelligence that seeks to awaken through human consciousness. When you understand this, everything changes. Your dreams become more than personal experiences. They become opportunities to serve the evolution of collective consciousness. They become ways of accessing and contributing to the morphic field of infinite possibility. And this is where the real magic happens. This is where you begin to understand that consciousness is not individual property, but a collective resource that we all share and serve. The book I mentioned earlier, the one that emerged from decades of suppression, contains layers upon layers of understanding about this integration of waking and sleeping consciousness. Written by Athena Laz, a fourth-generation intuitive who combines depth psychology with quantum consciousness research, The Alchemy of Your Dreams reveals the complete system for conscious navigation of the morphic field during sleep. What we're exploring in this video barely touches the surface of what becomes possible when you understand the full mechanics of consciousness travel during dreams. The book contains specific techniques, detailed maps of the morphic field, and practices that can transform your relationship with consciousness itself. If what you're hearing today is resonating with something deep in your being, if you're feeling called to explore the multidimensional nature of your consciousness, then this book contains the complete system for conscious dreaming and morphic field navigation. But remember, this isn't just about acquiring information. It's about joining a movement of consciousness that's actively transforming the frequency of human awareness on Earth. Now let's explore the most profound aspect of consciousness travel during sleep: the possibility of direct communion with the intelligence that guides the evolution of consciousness itself. The morphic field of human consciousness exists within an even larger field of cosmic intelligence. This intelligence is not separate from human consciousness, but it operates at frequencies that most individual minds cannot directly access during waking hours. But during sleep, when consciousness decouples from the limitations of individual identity, it becomes possible to connect with this cosmic intelligence directly. This is what mystics throughout history have called communion with the divine, what quantum physicists call connection with the unified field, what consciousness researchers call access to universal intelligence. This intelligence doesn't communicate through words or images. It communicates through direct knowing, through frequency transmission, through what can only be described as pure understanding. When you consciously attune to this level of the morphic field during sleep, you gain access to wisdom that transcends human knowledge, healing that transcends physical limitation, and creative solutions that transcend individual thinking. This is the deepest teaching of the suppressed texts. This is the ultimate possibility of conscious dreaming. This is what becomes available when you understand where your consciousness actually goes during sleep. But here's what makes this even more profound. This cosmic intelligence is not something external to human consciousness. It's the deepest level of what human consciousness actually is. When you connect with this intelligence during sleep, you're not accessing something outside yourself. You're accessing the deepest truth of what you are. You're remembering that individual consciousness is not separate from universal consciousness, but is universal consciousness expressing itself through individual form. This is why dream work is ultimately spiritual work. It's not about gaining access to external information or power. It's about remembering the infinite nature of consciousness itself. And when you remember this truth, everything changes. Your dreams become more than personal experiences. They become opportunities to serve the awakening of consciousness throughout the universe. This is the ultimate teaching of the forbidden knowledge. This is what every human being can learn to access. This is what happens when you understand where your consciousness actually goes during dreams. You become a bridge between the individual and the universal, between the personal and the cosmic, between the human and the divine. You become a conscious participant in the evolution of consciousness itself. And this is why these teachings were suppressed. Because when enough humans understand the infinite nature of consciousness, the entire structure of reality based on separation and limitation begins to dissolve. We're not just individuals dreaming random dreams. We're expressions of universal consciousness, awakening to its own infinite nature. We're active participants in the cosmic evolution of awareness itself. And the key to this participation lies in understanding where your consciousness goes when you sleep. As we complete this exploration, I want you to understand something that changes everything. Tonight, when you go to sleep, you have a choice. You can continue to approach sleep as unconscious rest, or you can begin to understand it as conscious navigation of the morphic field of infinite possibility. This choice isn't just personal, it's planetary. Every human who awakens to the multidimensional nature of consciousness during sleep contributes to the collective awakening of human awareness. The morphic field of consciousness is shifting. The frequency of human awareness is evolving. And you, right now in this moment, are being called to participate in this transformation. The suppressed knowledge is returning. The forbidden texts are becoming available. The consciousness technologies that were hidden are being revealed. But knowledge without practice is just information. Understanding without application is just intellectual entertainment. The real transformation happens when you begin to consciously navigate the morphic field during sleep. Tonight, before you sleep, remember that you're not just going to rest. You're about to embark on a journey of consciousness that connects you to the infinite intelligence that guides the evolution of awareness itself. Set your intention clearly. Attune your consciousness to frequencies that serve the highest good of all beings. Prepare to participate consciously in the most profound journey your awareness takes every night. And remember, you're not just doing this for yourself. You're doing this for the awakening of consciousness throughout the universe. Take a moment now and drop one word in the comments below that captures the transformation you're choosing to embody. This isn't just a casual comment. It's your energetic signature to the quantum field of infinite possibility. It's your declaration that you're ready to understand where your consciousness actually goes during sleep. Whether you choose awakening, navigation, service, remembering, or whatever word resonates with your deepest truth, know that this word becomes part of the morphic field that other consciousness streams can connect to. Your declaration contributes to the collective awakening of human awareness. If this exploration has touched something deep in your being, If you feel called to understand the multidimensional nature of your consciousness, then I invite you to subscribe, not just to this channel, but to this frequency of awakening awareness. Subscribe to stay connected to the teachings that can transform your relationship with consciousness itself. Subscribe to remain attuned to the movement of awakening that's spreading throughout human awareness. Subscribe to be part of the community that's actively participating in the evolution of consciousness on Earth. The more of us who understand where our consciousness goes during sleep, the more the collective field of human awareness awakens to its infinite nature. The more of us who practice conscious navigation of the morphic field, the more the world reflects the truth of interconnected consciousness. We are not separate individuals having random dreams. We are expressions of universal consciousness, awakening to its own infinite nature through the experience of human awareness. And tonight, when you close your eyes, you'll know that you're not entering unconsciousness. You're entering the most profound journey your consciousness takes. A journey that connects you to the infinite intelligence that guides the evolution of awareness itself. This is where your consciousness actually goes during dreams. This is what becomes possible when you understand the truth that has been hidden from human awareness for far too long. The suppressed knowledge is returning. The forbidden texts are becoming available. The consciousness technologies are being revealed. And you, right now, in this moment, are being called to participate in the transformation of human consciousness itself. The journey begins tonight. The awakening continues through every dream. The evolution of consciousness depends on your willingness to understand where your awareness actually goes when you sleep. Welcome to the multidimensional nature of your consciousness. Welcome to the morphic field of infinite possibility. Welcome to the journey that changes everything. Your consciousness is infinite. Your dreams are doorways. Your sleep is service to the awakening of awareness throughout the universe. Remember this truth. Practice this understanding. Share this wisdom. The world is waiting for you to awaken to the infinite nature of your consciousness. The universe is waiting for you to understand where your awareness actually goes during dreams. Consider rewatching this video tomorrow morning to anchor these understandings into your consciousness before you begin your day. And if this exploration has touched something deep within you, share it with someone who's ready to remember their multidimensional nature. When you share these quantum consciousness concepts, you're not just passing along information. You're creating an energetic ripple effect that expands collective awareness and accelerates the awakening of everyone it touches. Tonight, the journey begins. Understanding where your consciousness travels during sleep naturally leads to mastering how consciousness creates reality itself through observation. Your dream awareness is actually practicing the same quantum field interaction that shapes your waking experience. Watch how consciousness creates reality, the truth about observation, to discover how your awareness literally collapses quantum possibilities into physical manifestation.